Mr. Chrysler has arrived at Lydia's house. Mr. Chrysler feels at home in my house. I know this from his actions when he walks through the front door on his next visit and heads straight to the decanter of Macallan. I asked him to stay on his previous visit, but he refused. He was over the limit to drive, and I found myself worrying about whether he would make it home in one piece. His secretary rang me the following day to confirm our next appointment, so I felt happier knowing he had somehow made it back. I don't want to get involved with him, but I fear my feelings are becoming a little overwhelming when he makes himself comfortable on the sofa in the morning room again and watches as I sit in the armchair. Perhaps he no longer needs to sound the klaxon. Perhaps from now on he just wants to counsel me in a sexual capacity. But he'll have to make do with listening today, because I have decided I'm in a talkative mood. He can drink my expensive whiskey if he so desires, but he'll soon realise that the woman he has offered alternative therapy to will not be receptive on every occasion. He wasn't prepared to listen to me last week after the intense orgasm I gave him. I was going to open myself up to him and finally let him glimpse the workings of my mind. But after only a few minutes of him zipping up his trousers, he announced his departure and left my home. I didn't appreciate his gesture and felt once again that he turned the tables on me. We're facing each other now, drinking from crystal tumblers in a very unorthodox therapy session. A part of me wishes I had arranged to visit him at his office, driven the Porsche there and parked it up before fumbling with my mobile phone and entering the building. Have you told your secretary you're here? I ask directly. He nods. I wasn't going to tell her, he starts to explain, but I thought it best in case she needed to contact me. He thought it best in case I was to tie him up and abandon him in my cellar, I think, trying hard not to grin. After all, he probably remembers my offer to show him my expensive vintage wine collection and wonders whether today he'll get to see the luxury that lies beneath my house. He's looking at me intently and I see a glint in his seductive blue eyes. I know he wants sex. He makes it obvious by the way he keeps running his tongue over his bottom lip. I notice a bulge in his trousers, which makes it even more obvious. I'm his patient, not his plaything, and he's in my home. For now, he'll listen to the nutter with the big house and more money in the bank than she could ever spend in a lifetime. He can continue drinking my whiskey, but he will continue being my psychologist until I say otherwise. Do you want to talk today, Lydia? He asks, and I smile, wondering how far his psychic abilities stretch and whether his qualifications as a psychologist reach as far as being able to read minds. Yes, I reply, taking a sip of my brandy. I put the glass on the table next to me and tuck my legs beneath me. He crosses his legs and puts his glass down. Have you been okay this past week? He asks. I've been lonely, but I'm used to that. I shrug. I've been okay. Fine? He asks, whilst a brief smile appears on his lips. Yes, fine. Are you more comfortable with me coming here, or would you prefer to go back to our other arrangement, where you come to my office? I've told you, your office is too clinical. It might be clinical, but it's where I see all my patients. Home visits are not something I've ever done. I don't believe you. I don't believe him at all. I imagine he's had several patients in his office whom he has then gone on to fuck in their homes, or perhaps a hotel room. Whether you believe me or not is immaterial. I'm here and I'd still like to help you if you'll let me. I want him to help me. Clara still thinks I need help, especially after finding me floating on the surface of my pool. But Clara has an uncomplicated life. She has a husband who sends her expensive flowers when he has to work away, takes her on date nights when they're together. She's been my friend for a while now, but we have little in common. The cynical side of me has often wondered if Tony's having an affair too, if his into floral bouquets and lavish dates are just a masquerade to keep her sweet while he sleeps with someone else. I find it frustrating sometimes how she never seems to appreciate him, whilst I had all that and a lot more besides, and lost it overnight. Do you want to fuck me again? I ask. I'm not sure whether he's delighted or shocked that I've asked him this question, as his eyes are wide, yet he smiles and reaches for the tumbler of whisky. He takes a sip and runs his fingers around the rim of the glass. Is that what you want, Lydia? I want a lot of things. Today? I'm not sure what I want. His certificates give nothing away anymore. When I first clapped my eyes on them decorating the walls in his office, I was impressed, whilst wary at the same time. How could anyone have so many qualifications and letters after the name and not feel arrogantly important? He strutted around his office in tight trousers and unbuttoned shirt, and then sat next to me on the giant couch, pretending not to gently brush my thigh with his hand. He wanted to intimidate me. He did at first, but then he fucked me over his desk and must have known from that moment on that things would change between us. I no longer look at this man as important. I've seen what lies beneath the fitted chinos and the white shirt, and even though it is delectable, it only makes him human. Do you want to talk about Michael? He asks, cutting into my thoughts. He takes me by surprise and I feel anxiety rising. I rarely talk about Michael. Clara asks about him occasionally, wanting to know if I miss him or miss being married. Michael hurt me, I start. No one had hurt me before, yet I allowed him to. I got too close to him and let my guard down. You were married to him. You can't get closer than that. You don't understand, I reply. I'm not going to let the shrink patronise me. Then help me understand. Let me in. Let me see what's going on in your head. Only then can I begin to help you. I've let you into my home. I've allowed you into my personal life. Isn't that enough? Not if you want me to help you, no. I wasn't interested in seeing you home. You gave me no choice. I gave you a choice, I scoff, and down the rest of my drink before standing up and walking to the decanter for a refill. You gave me an impossible choice. I'm a highly regarded psychologist, and I can't afford to have my reputation tainted because you might get drunk one night and tell more than you should. He has a point. Perhaps I haven't given him a choice, but he didn't need to come here. I think you came here because you thought you might get a repeat of the other week. A repeat? He asks. He scowls at me. I've angered him. You thought you might be able to fuck me again, didn't you? Picks up his glass and finishes the whisky, and stands up and walks to the decanters. He puts the glass on the sideboard and turns to look at me. I enjoyed what you did to me last week, but I don't expect it to be repeated. You enjoyed me taking your cock in my mouth. You were happy to settle for that last week. He stands in front of me and I wonder if he's making up his mind about whether or not to refill his glass. I just wanted to help you, he says quietly. Would you like me to leave? I wanted to talk, I reply. No, I don't want him to leave. I want him to rip all my clothes off and spread my legs again, and push himself inside me until his orgasm takes hold of us both and we surrender to each other's fantasies. He pours himself another drink. I think he might plan to stay a little longer, and I feel glad. Maybe I should feel grateful too. He resumes his place on the sofa and stares at me. He doesn't speak, obviously waiting for me to start my tale of woe about how my husband destroyed me and how the slut ripped him away. I see her sometimes. I decide to talk. I'm not paying him for his time anymore, and before long I'm going to have to replenish the Macallan, so I think I should start getting my money's worth. After all, the whiskey he is taken to so fondly costs more for a bottle than his therapy sessions do. Who? He asks. The slut who ruined my life. Michael's mistress, I take it. It isn't a question. Yes. She struts around the grocery store in ridiculously high heels, and I imagine slamming into her and causing her to fall to the ground. Does she see you too? I've no idea. I noticed her glancing over at me a few weeks ago in the high street. I'm not sure if she recognised me. Perhaps she did, but she didn't want any confrontation. I looked away and carried on walking. Have you ever confronted her about what happened between her and Michael? I shake my head and hug my glass of brandy. I wanted to. But I want to leave this earth with my dignity intact.